Like to introduce Miguel and Celia and Mariana from Complear. If you guys want to say a few words, feel free. If not, just
No, I think just a quick words from our side. So we had this opportunity to try to do a different kind of event discussing AI in a physical format. So it's not what we think normally, but it really made us discuss things that otherwise may be harder online. So it's quite interesting when we go into a more digital and automated world where the physical presence it becomes more relevant. And because of that, also this opportunity to really discuss things in a level of depthness that we can do in the physical world. So it's the same way AI is good for some things, bad for others. I think a lot of 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 um, of these kind of setups shows that the more we see AI, I think the more we value humans. And we had a big discussion which on this on the relevance of the humans in the AI world. That we just need to understand what is our spots. AI will never replace us. Will replace most of the things we do, um, but will free us to do quite amazing things that we are not doing before. So it's a bit of this takes on being able to stop doing more kind of retreats. Not no one was there trying to sell anything. We at Comply are developing a platform to try to automate a lot of this journey, but the reality is that we even discussed vibe compliance with normal clothes or normal tools. So not trying to say our tool is the best or the other is not good. We had different consultants coming together. So some of us competing for the same clients elsewhere, but we enjoy some good meal together. And it's a bit of this spirit of human connection that AI MCP cannot fix.
absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. Celia, do you want to say anything?
Just reinforcing, I think the key point, and while discussing AI, I think sometimes we miss is really this, like the human in the loop, and how the human interactions in the end are what give the best output to everything, to the AI, but also to humans in general, and how we can use AI to make the most of it and not having AI doing everything without the point of the critical thinking, of the originality that humans have, and also free us so that we can have better human interactions in the end. Yeah, just wanted to reinforce that while discussing AI, how humans are important and are not the replacement, but how we can improve ourselves and enjoy more yourselves because of that.
Uh, I want to highlight a moment that I think was quite relevant to me. That was we had a music concert, violin and cello, in the middle of the park, just for us. In the reality, could AI play better music than those amazing young talent musicians? Probably you have already AI doing so. But being there, the presence, having someone smiling when they're playing to you, feeling like there was more than just people playing music or someone really feeling how they're playing. That moment, that was, I think, a bit of humanity kind of reality when we were just discussing AI all the time. So it's a bit kind of interesting, kind of not typical events. We are not discussing the future of technology and forgetting humans. We are really going back a bit on, okay, where the humans are relevant in the world of AI and this presence, being able to be present, being able to really keep up with the world, I think is the biggest challenge that we have with AI is that how can we evolve AI at the same pace we need to allow people to still keep up with it, because we need to keep the human component on it because it's what makes things special.
Exactly. Mariana, did you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, sure. Hi guys, my name is Mariana. I'm a PhD fellow at Complear. I don't think I have anything to add. Miguel and Celia have said pretty much everything. I am very pro AI, but if it's used for the right thing, I think it should not replace us. It should aid us. So yeah, let's move on and hear what John has to say.
Okay. So, as I said, the core questions were, you know, Um, the obviously, how are we going to use AI in regulatory and quality systems? And what is the readiness of organizations across across the sector? Presented while I was there the survey results, which I'm happy to share with anybody um, in summary format. But what we found was that a good 50% of the regulatory audience that responded to the survey really is not very well prepared to deal with AI, nor are their organizations. Um, they don't have policies in place regarding the use of AI by the employees. They don't have protections in place to safeguard their intellectual property against, uh, you know, being shared with the world. And so there are plenty of opportunities for both individuals and organizations to um, come together on this. That was my presentation, and a lot of people are still very suspicious of AI. That would be the other summary finding that I would share with you, is that a lot of people just keep mentioning hallucinations um, and and difficulties with getting the AI to perform the way that they want it to. Um, The way that it was structured, as I said, everybody was there with a single purpose. There were interactive solution circles. We would split into groups, collaborative workshops, peer-led problem solving outputs, which are going to feed into a white paper. The key themes that we discussed, and I'd like to open it up to the audience a little bit here, is AI governance and validation, human in the loop responsibility, predictive and data-driven quality systems, and AI literacy. And I just read a slide at you, which is something I swore I would never do. So on that note, from these themes, is there anyone that would like to comment on any of those areas? I'm happy to go off script here. Just pipe up.
Sean, this is Monica. I know I wasn't able to attend. I'm sorry. Portugal sounds a lot more fun than where I was at San Diego. So I was in I was at the AdvaMed MedTech Conference, and it was just AI was all over the place, right? And it was very much the things you're talking about here. So human in the loop, responsibility, the AI governance and validation, and hallucination. People just kept saying it over and over and over again. And I think what's happening right now is humans haven't caught up to the thinking yet because yes, yeah, hallucination is a risk, but we got it, right? We're on it. We're working on it. So at this time, I don't think, in my opinion, and the opinion of some of the folks I talked to, hallucination is not the boogeyman it was maybe even a year ago. I think the bigger problem is cybersecurity. And so that's just kind of my takeaway from 3 days of being immersed in what should have been medtech and wound up to be AI. So anyway.
Thank you. So that was AdvaMed. I was not able to attend. I was at RAPS. So then, Elizabeth Ann, might need to promote her. At any rate, okay, so we will circle back to her.
But
Maybe,
if I can add here a bit, this human in the loop is we brought in this session. So Marina led the session on a bit the journal club where we look on the studies already on the use of AI on the human side. So not necessarily if it works, does not work, is good for good compliance, but the human component out of it. And we are all from healthcare, so we start also having these studies from doctors using AI and how not necessarily AI plus a doctor is better than a doctor. While AI may be better than a doctor in efficiency, the combination is not necessarily better, um, because the overload of information that the AI provides to the doctor or to an expert like us, make us to spend more time to review and assess things if you really want to do a critical decision that in the end will be quicker if we were the one doing the research, if we were the one probably compiling some of that information. At a certain point, there's a bit of this discussion where the human in the loop aspect is a big challenge, because we really want if quickness, then you just skip. Are you really doing a critical judgment on the content? And if you really want to have a human in the loop, are we really being more efficient with AI, or we just being pushed to do a kind of checking? And I often say that AI is the best liar in the world, so it's really tailored to lie to us. More than hallucinations is how we write things, how we convene things, how convincing he is trying to tell us that that is the truth. That makes it really hard for us to understand what is not true or not. So it's easier to have a junior person and you really understand he's not secure in some things. The AI becomes quite secure on himself and become a challenge. But yeah, I think this human in the loop aspect that we have been learning with the medtech industry, how really AI is not the holy grail for healthcare, um, with any flavors, so there's specific flavors. How this for our profession of quality assurance and regulatory is also something to have in perspective. But yeah, so this is my point. So I think Faisal, you wanted to add something.
Yes, I mean, I think it's very interesting to go a little bit more into detail about this. I mean, AI, obviously, when we talk about AI, it's machine learning, or are we talking closed algorithm or open algorithm? The world is certainly moving towards open algorithm, it seems, more and more. When it comes to validation, that plays a role a little bit. What are we talking about? And then with regards to the human in the loop, I mean, every technology has built into, the way that it operates, some endemic flaws, or what makes it work good is also what makes some things be, flaws, you could say. And with AI, what I'm not hearing enough perhaps is, we need human beings. Well, there's something called AI drift. So certainly humans, we have a tendency to pick that up very fast if we're working with AI. So I would love to hear that more, that we need humans to be looking at AI drift, and this is going to be an area. And then there is the fact that the world changes. So retraining, AI retraining. If you have a physician, but now there's a pandemic and the physician doesn't know there's a pandemic or doesn't have data. So there's that aspect as well. So I think that I love that we're talking about AI, but in the kind of the more detailed, grainy area when we're discussing it, I would love to kind of lift out some of those human-centric areas to work with. Say, this is the area. We need humans here, and regulatory can do this or that. And this is another area, so that it isn't so wishy-washy in some sense. We're all bedazzled by AI, and I love using AI for a number of things. I think it's fun, but I think we're all sharing those kind of questions and concerns. Just not hearing enough of those things, I think.
So I want to speak on behalf of Elizabeth Ann. She had said that she was having technical difficulty joining, but perspective from a lawyer's perspective is how can the use of AI be validated, particularly where it's used in activities such as post-market surveillance. And I think that's a valid point, because what I see is that if you ask the same question twice in a row, you often get two different answers. Um, and so the idea of creating a query or something that you're going to submit to the FDA, and you're going to say, well, this is what I submitted, and they're going to get a completely different answer, or at least somewhat different answer from the answer that you're getting, is how are we going to reconcile the fact that you can't replicate the results? It seems to me to be a huge problem from the perspective of something like post-market surveillance, where you're saying, this is the research that I did, here, replicate the thing, and they're not able to replicate it. And they go from Claude to ChatGPT to Gemini to whatever, they're going to get, either wildly different results or, inconsistent results. So it depends on the platform that they're using, and the level at which they're using it, and the prompt that they're entering. So that would be my concern.
Yeah, so something we explored. I organized a quick workshop on we call vibe compliance. On like now that everyone is a developer with vibe coding, right? That's how we can do the basics of vibe compliance. And the reality, and we at Compliar we really embrace that, is our field is quite plagued with unknowns. And we and experts, many of us as experts, we have this role of coming to SMEs, to companies, and helping them to think about questions they may have not thought about. For me, the power of AI is that allow a PG student when he's doing an initial thesis to think about, help me to do a risk workshop, and think about risks that's probably only 10 years later they will be thinking about when they reach to a more expert person to help them through this stage. Are those risks correct or incorrect? Probably this is not the question, but just making people question if that content is relevant or not for them is already for me the biggest power of AI, and how we can use AI today for compliance in a more free way. Of course, cybersecurity being an issue, but I don't care about hallucinations many of the times. But I say I want hallucinations, this kind of thing. That is good to making thinking. When we go to something we need to validate to make a decision. Okay, we cover all the risks. Then is where probably AI is still a shortcoming, and this is where the validation of these methods become a challenge. But the power of just filling a void that exists of knowledge, I think, is quite relevant. Not expecting that becomes the only source of knowledge, but um, any AI knows more than any clients I ever had. So if they just speak with AI before they're speaking to me, it'll save a lot of time just on teaching them the basic things of what is risk. Even yesterday, I was discussing with a client on how he's saying, "Oh, my AI model does not have a risk, does not have bias," and how could you like here 10 examples of how that can be have bias, and he had to agree with all of my examples, but for him he was rocket solid, no bias. This case doesn't have any risk, and this use of AI of really having an expert in your pocket quickly I think is quite a powerful use of AI, with of course the limitations on the full cycle of compliance.
That's great. So we had a few comments in the chat. If I use OpenAI, I ask for the source and response to the answer at the same time as asking for the question. Yes, definitely helpful. When I'm using transcripts, I ask for a timestamp just to make sure that they're not hallucinating the quote. And then I ask them to verify that they're not hallucinating the quote, because it's really important when I quote people that I quote them accurately. And Luke said, whereas AI is used to do our help with human work over time, it will probably be tempting to use AI for the human part of the human in the loop. Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. The co-founder of OpenAI had raised his prediction recently to 20% that human beings will actually become slaves to AI at some point in the future. So that is a distinct possibility. I think that we have to be aware of the fact that we're playing with fire in some respects. This is such a powerful technology that is going to have a sweeping impact on everything from education to how we learn, to how we think, to how we structure ideas, to how we present ideas. I've noticed recently that a lot of people have started saying deep dive as part of everyday English. It's not part of everyday English. It is now, thanks to AI when they're deep dives. But, frankly, before AI, that was not a common English expression. I mean, yeah, it existed, but did people say it every single day? No, absolutely not. So, that's just my own uh, personal.
Can I add here? I think it ends into how we implement critical thinking to what AI gives. And of course, and we sometimes can get lazy and we ask AI when don't verify enough, or we don't do this validation, or like Luke was saying, we can use the AI to validate itself, to be like the human in the loop. And maybe even asking other AI to validate what another AI said could be even a good strategy to add an extra level, but then it should add still a human in the loop. Also because of, and that was also one of the points, one of the sections of our, one of the workshops of the retreat, is that, is AI making us dumber or not? Because if we ended up always being too lazy to do this critical thinking, like what will we have in the end? And like Sean, you were saying, Coach, from the co-founder from the Open AI, like, will AI, will we be slaves to the AI? Like, in the end, if we won't be able even to do critical thinking, and we are dumbifying just ourselves and just being another loop in the AI, like, what is the purpose? And I think AI can be a very good tool for us, even to improve our critical thinking, or to improve how we learn and get to learn more, because we have a huge access to information. The thing is, if we don't know enough, we don't know if that is correct or not. Even if we ask for reference, we double check everything and all that. But up to a certain point, it's a bit up to us. And the worry thing is, we typically end to be as lazy as we can, so we will tend into like reduce this critical thinking most likely, and that is the worry of this, of how, instead of using AI to amplify us and so that we can improve ourselves as humans and our knowledge, we ended up just being another loop within that, and not adding our extra value or our extra critical thinking to the loop, and our extra interpretation of something to the loop of the AI, because that's what AI is not able to do, this extra personality, because it just merges everything and everything starts to be a little bit the same, because it's the same rationale all over again. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add here.
Yeah, we did have a discussion about the impact on human thinking and the studies that have been done on the few studies that have been done on, does it make us lazier? Does it actually diminish critical thinking? Or does it raise it up? And I think that, and Luke has his hand raised. Go ahead, Luke.
Okay, I think it's not a question about people getting dumber or smarter, but that AI is getting dumber. I mean, AI is built on a limited data set that's in the world, on the internet. And if you remove porn, cat movies, and grocery list, I think you have 50% left. And of that 50%, a lot of it is bullshit. So it will be I think, a challenge how to filter out valuable content. And the bigger models you make and the more data points you use, it will not make your AI smarter in the end. Especially because it's a kind of self-reinforcing. Like there's a lot of more AI content coming onto the internet, which builds on more AI content, and it doesn't make it smarter. You could argue, well, if you only use credible sources uh, scientific papers or something. But even in the scientific papers, there's a lot more bullshit coming in because people produce more. And even if you have, I can make an example for my field of work. There was a breakthrough article on how to measure EEG, and they used a head cap with the ground electrode in the middle. And that's bullshit to use it there because it doesn't improve your signal. But because it was a breakthrough article, everybody else wants to do it as well. So you have a kind of flywheel of bad information, bad data that perpetuates throughout the internet. And I think with AI, that's even going to get worse. So yes, I think AI at the moment will help a lot because you get you get new insights in a fast and easy manner. But to go beyond that level, I think it will be almost impossible. So I'm not afraid of AI becoming better than humans, at least some humans.
Thank you, Luke. Nellie, you have your hand raised.
So I think it's kind of the age old kind of, if you think about it, if something makes your life easier and you don't want to use that part of your brain, then you need to compensate it and use the other parts of your brain. So I think it's just really the people who are gonna be dumbed down are going to be dumbed down, and the people who aren't are not going to be. When I use AI, I use it in a project capacity, front load it with something I already know the information just to verify I wrote it correctly. So I'm still using my critical thinking. I'm just making my critical thinking more effective. And so I think that's really, it's just human nature. You're going to have the idiots and you're going to have the smart people, and the people who want to work and know things will work and know things. I said it, I hope I said that right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I use AI quite frequently in my work, and what it allows me to do is do things that just took a lot of time before, like
Yep.
create this PowerPoint presentation. And this PowerPoint presentation was created in a very short period of time, based on a large amount of content that was produced at the event, was carefully considered, ingested, and so. But yeah, in the old days, creating a PowerPoint presentation could take days. And when we used to have to write research papers, we'd go to the library, we'd go to the card catalog, we'd go to the stacks, we'd go to the books, we'd look up in the index what page that comment was on, and then we'd find out that it was meaningless, you
Yep.
know? So a lot of that manual research that was done before is being shortcutted. To Luke's point, the amount of nonsense being sort of flywheel effect that's happening from that, that is true to a certain extent. So, why does MedTech Leading Voice matter? Why does the exchange matter? It matters because it is the voice of the expert that we capture, and it is the voice of experience and knowledge that has to be somehow preserved, and brought forward. Otherwise, we do risk perpetuating misinformation on top of misinformation. And so I think that the role of the human being is shifting. And in a conversation that I had with Miguel and Celia over lunch, um, we had a long discussion about the idea of the things that machines do quickly and well, and the things that human beings do equally well and the overlap is not a lot there. And it is in the creative process, it is in the judgment, it is in the original thought, it is in the decision making where I find that human beings excel. A lot of times I ask AI to summarize something and they just miss the narrative spine that I'm looking for. And I go back and I redirect it to the narrative spine that I want to draw out of it. And then ask it to redirect. Is it the best writer in the world? No, it's not, not yet. It will get better, Um, but, and I see that Leonard Leo has his hand up.
Once I get to the mic. So things that AI is not good at is things like when there's discussions in the room for developing standards, it's not going to know information like that for sure. So for standards developers, they're for fourth edition of 601, we're writing a lot of rationale, but there's even more information than that that's discussed that's never going to be in the document. That's in the people that are developing it, the people, the regulators, the manufacturers, the academics, the trade associations that are sitting in the room making those discussions and making those decisions. That's never going to be out there in the public. And even the standards themselves, they're never written perfectly, that there's full, clear knowledge how the requirements are written. They're written as good as they can be, but there is room for interpretation. So you need the experts in the room still at some level. And IEC 60601-1-2, the EMC standard currently, is written so poorly in some aspects. You have 3, 4, 5 pages long for one requirement. You can scratch your head and look at that requirement and go, what is it saying? And interpret it probably 5 or 6 different ways.
Excellent point. I think human discussions are absolutely the thing that set us apart from the machines in our ability to interact with one another. And that's why the event in Portugal was so valuable for me. Faisal, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I mean, I was thinking about what Luke said and also what you said, Sean. And really, we are using AI, all of us. More and more of the data that AI is going to consume will probably ultimately be from AI, or a large part of it. And so one of the issues, we're maybe touching it right now, but it'll probably get worse, is when AI is to a larger and larger degree consuming its own data. So that also is probably why human beings will constantly be necessary to engage them, to activate them, to have them speak and not just consume information from the internet, but actually, create content and have discussions. So I wanted to make that point as well. I see that in this discussion, certainly.
Thank you. So we had a gadget-thon with AI tools, and there were 7 presentations at the thing. I think it was 7. And we looked at the things that people are doing with digital twins and prompting and human review. I did a post about that, but I had to take it down because I actually got one of the people's names wrong, and it was so I'll try to resurrect that and share it again in more detail.
Sean, you're the part of digital twins that has been promising for years. And were there actual results presented there?
No, it was more like a how to use the gadgets, like how to create a digital twin for yourself and how to create videos, how to, it was like different AI tools that were explored.
Yeah, not on digital twins from the healthcare perspective sense.
Oh,
'Cause
right.
No, but okay, also in production, in machinery, a lot of people say we make digital twins so we can predict maintenance. And it was always very promising, and I've never seen a commercial digital twin taking off yet. Have you?
Jumping on this, some of the times is I've been working in innovation for long in startups. The moment you start speaking about the buzzwords is the moment probably those things are being used and don't even are aware of this. You speak about digital twin. Does Facebook have a digital twin of you when it try to send you ads? This does not end to be a digital twin in some way. So the full extent of this kind of rationales probably they blur a bit when they really get into practice. Of course, we have this hype of blockchain is the next thing, and I remember when you with a piece of paper, gladly AI was not present there because just doing a white paper back then we could raise 20 million, 30 million with just a business plan without nothing to support it. So imagine just being able to do it with AI. But the reality is this today we have blockchain being used in quite different applications. Probably not the same thing we foresee back then. And I'm saying this because probably we don't heard about digital twins in some promising areas because they are just being used in some capacities and certain things. Probably not with the full extent of magic of you have a digital twin of the city and you can predict the outburst of flu in real time kind of stuff. But honestly, I've been seeing a lot of what is can be considered a digital twin application.
Okay, Miguel, I stand corrected. I think you're right that Meta and Google, they do have digital twins of our lives.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's interesting this topic because when we speak about AI, it's because it's so novel. But in the end, we may just be speaking about content creation or compliance, automatic audits. For instance, why do we have internal audits with humans when probably you can do internal audits every week with AI that probably delivers better results in compliance than having someone going 1 year to a company and you pretend some of the times you're doing certain things that you are actually not doing. Just giving examples of well, we speak about these technologies, but the moment you stop speaking about them, often it's because they are is where they start really having applications and they become secondary to the discussion.
I actually think the example of internal audits is a dangerous one because now then how do you get to the point where you qualify your AI? Because if you're getting a different answer with every AI, you're creating the same exact issue that you have with humans. Whereas with humans, they can do an intellectual assessment of it and do deeper dives. So I think I wouldn't use internal audits as an example because then you have the whole realm is how did you qualify that AI to do the internal audit? But I understand what you're saying. I would just, tread lightly there.
Okay, let's move on to AI and design and development. What were the key takeaways from the event? How can AI accelerate design and development? Any comments here from,
Yes. Is that for physical products or more for like software things, like software as a medical device or?
I think it's
Because
either, really.
Hmm?
I think it's either one.
Uh, to me, I'm a research and development engineer, and I haven't found any useful application for AI yet, especially for the large language models. And it's what they say they are. They predict every next word, so it's especially suited for applications that work with language, whether it be human language or computer language. You can see that it takes a lot of takes off on programming and also in writing documents. But for designing physical products, I don't know. I haven't seen a good application yet. And you can say um, uh, uh, hallucination is not a big thing anymore, but that only counts for the hallucinations you recognize directly. It's the more subtle, hidden variations that are in the answers that are more dangerous, I guess. So my 2 cents. Thank you.
Andre?
Yeah, Luke, to take off on what you said, we're also developers of hardware and software. We make a lot of physical products in the medical device field. And what we've been doing now with it is something like what Nelly had mentioned before, is that, we're creating, let's say, a bill of materials or a schematic for an electronic product. And if there's some question on it, instead of just going in cold into the AI, is showing what we've done and asking for example, alternate components or alternate design considerations. Now, it's not always great, but it does give you some different alternates, some different perspectives. So, we're implementing it now on the physical side for actual hardware units.
That's very interesting.
Actually, jumping here, this is the promise of the digital twin. More is how really can you do a representation of in information of the physical world, and then you can deploy AI at larger scale. Probably it's not so sexy for ChatGPT and OpenAI and Google because they are software companies. But this all this hardware space, the moment we already have a quite digital in world, right? The components, the diagrams being vectors, so they are quite digital. A lot of information. We probably are not investing the same way on that space where probably these companies are investing on the content creation kind of space. But I don't see why the physical will not probably will be much easier because at least we have some constraints that you can put on the physics of certain things that of course you cannot do it with words. That's of course why the videos fail so much with AI is because they are built into models. But there's a lot of research on AI being done now on new ways of framing concepts that are beyond LLM. So LLMs just is a revolution, but is not the only technology that we should expect with AI at this stage.
So, Luke, one of the things that I find most helpful when I'm trying to create something new with AI is to go to it with an hour-long transcript of a recording of myself saying, this is my problem. This is the problem that I'm trying to solve. These are the things that I've tried before that didn't work. This is the outcome that I'm trying to achieve. Um, I want help thinking through this problem, and I'm not able to come to an answer on my own of exactly how to move forward. And what I find with AI is that although the answer that I get at the end is not that it develops a new product for me or it creates something out of whole cloth, but rather it helps guide my thinking in a way that is constructive, directed, and is able to bring in pieces of information. How many times have we thought, oh, I should make a t-shirt that says this, and I'm going to make millions of dollars off it because it's so funny. And then you go on the internet and you find out that 100 people are already selling that t-shirt and that, your idea wasn't nearly as original as you thought it was. So what I like to do is I like to ask AI to validate how original my idea is, or if it's just commonplace knowledge that I just thought that I thought of all on my own. And so the fact that it is ingesting the entire World Wide Web, the fact that it is generating content off itself, the fact that all of this is available for me to double check my sanity against that and to ask it not to blow smoke at me, but rather to critically analyze the content that I've given it and to help me create something new from that. I find it very helpful, personally, but I'm not an engineer. Caveat, I am not an engineer.
But jumping here as an engineer, yesterday I was doing an exercise. We had some technical challenge in our platform that requires a bit of architecture thinking as engineer, and we are gathered with all the team, like we are getting nowhere, or at least we had more needed, and I just jump into Claude and say, here's my issue. Propose implementations on how to sort this out, but propose a lot. So and I kept asking, like, propose more, present the pros and the cons. And in the end, that was a way, as in 15 minutes, I was able to get inspiration. Or when I say inspiration, I I was able to like I think Andre, you were saying, like, finding a component that probably I didn't remember from the first place does not mean that the moment I see it, for me, okay, this makes sense because I'm an expert and I know this makes sense. But the reality is that opening this brainstorming, so the deep dive, Shanti, that you're mentioning, I think that's the powerful thing of AI these days, is how can it give us a lot of information consolidated that accelerates a lot of what we could be doing on this inspiration. When you think about the product, is this kind of things, thinking outside of the box, because the reality, most of the things we think is not new. It's what I say, the ever started by work. Like, if I already you don't need to explain much further. I know exactly what they're doing. I have 10 other clients that do basically the same. Is the reality that that many of the cases, a lot of the problems we face, in the approach was already documented somewhere, and AI is an amazing tool for that. But this can be the tool for the fool if you don't know what we are doing, or can be really powerful because we can do in probably one morning, which may take 1 month of re-engineering, of testing things, exploring things, just to find out that someone already tried that and didn't work. But on the engineering side, I see huge potential, but I see really the challenge of, and actually, I think we were speaking of that also on lunch. The issue with the junior person, like, because if you're not able to have a critical thinking, this is a hard tool to evolve. But if you really know a lot and you can keep on the side of learning things and being keep the critical judgment, this is a tool that exponentially allow us to do things much bigger. Speak about internal audits, Nelly. How about human AI internal audits? In one day, you can probably do an audit of everything and
Yeah.
ask the AI, okay, find the things that probably are just missing, and you go directly to the things that you will not miss a lot of things on the sampling process that probably AI helps go through that process. But again, does not mean that you will look into that. Is a matter of accelerating and scaling what we can do. And that is a challenge. How can we keep producing experts if we now subject a bunch of people that no longer need to think about this FDA submission? They just use a platform and click next, and they have a FDA 510(k) submission ready to FDA on the other side. And now probably FDA just, okay, we just want to promote innovation. They have a next evaluation AI system on the other side, and you just have someone that have no clue what was even approved, or someone that just created documentation without critical thinking. And in the futures, those will be the people that need to replace Leo in the standards, right? And where are this critical thinking that we need for creating new content? For me, is the biggest concern is how we really need to think as a society beyond just individuals, how AI really can be sustainable long term.
Yeah, I think you actually hit on what I was saying before. You have to have the smart human working with the AI and controlling the AI. If you don't do that, then you kind of run the risk of, how did you qualify it? Like, for example, when I do an AI project on ChatGPT, I have projects where I've front loaded standards and procedures and I ask a question. When I go to use it, I will go back and say, please remember the guidelines of this project. And then I start moving forward, because I've literally put the same thing into what Sean was saying. I've asked the same question 3 days in a row, not because I was testing ChatGPT. My brain didn't remember that I asked it already. And then I got 3 different answers and I went, oh, wait a minute, I've got 3 different answers. They're all in the same venue enough to where I can take and shape it. But most people cut paste and just don't think about shaping it.
Hmm. Good point.
And perhaps you could even ask the same question and have different outputs, and then you could compile on it. Maybe it has a like having someone with experience and knowledge, and use that different outputs as a way to better know or know more deeply on that subject. Like Miguel was saying, for example, in terms of brainstorming a topic, okay, give me more options, give me more options. Also as a way, okay, is there something else that I'm not seeing? So that you, with the knowledge and with the critical thinking, can better work on it, or map it. But for sure, this person that is an expert is a critical thing here to know and to avoid through the hallucinations or the just things that are just filling the text, because AI loves to write a lot of stuff just for the sake of writing, and it's doesn't add anything. So you can go through and add something that is valuable on top of it. Yeah, and I think that that's the key point of how we can exponentiate our work or our knowledge with AI, with the support of AI.
We became experts because of the hard manual labor and all the errors we made and learned from it. I don't think it's feasible to become an expert just by using AI.
That is a tricky thing, and I think was what Miguel was saying, how for us that have already some experience, like you're saying, with failing an error and learning from that. I think the tricky thing is how should we train new professionals if they don't know what should be right, because they don't have yet that critical thinking or specialized or critical knowledge on a certain topic, and they will not pass through this fail and error, at least as we did, because they can have AI that can guide them more. So I think that's a big key question. How can we train new people into this era of AI? Because I think that's what we don't know. Like, what is the future of people that don't have that much experience yet, and how will they be able to be experienced, to be able to do this critical thinking and support on top of it? Yeah.